This is the Ibex Gundyr Kai, a 21-part, high-horsepower combat ground vehicle made with the help of efficient demand. It is highly inspired by both their Mini Arrow and Arrow 2 builds. As an upgrade to my original Ibex Gundyr, the Ibex Gundyr Kai uses two of Long-Twin Frame's FESCA engines. This triple stacks the rotation of the big wheels within a more compact form factor, allowing for the vehicle to reach star fragment speeds, even when going uphill. Now with that brief explanation out of the way, let's dive into the build guide. The build will consist of the following parts, and will cost a minimum of 15 Zonite to auto build, but we'll also need to use a number of additional parts during the building process. Don't worry about the specific number of these parts, as I'll tell you how many you need and when to get them at the appropriate time. You'll also need a minimum of 3 auto build safe slots. Let's start with gravity pressing the central wheels. Head to the Sonopan Shrine, east of Satori Mountain. Inside you'll find a large metal cube that's useful since it's heavy and contains multiple snap points. Next we'll head to the top of the Lome Depths Labyrinth. This area is great for building because it's flat, has a high stable FPS, and doesn't experience any wind that can affect repeated auto builds. Attach your cubes like so to create an alignment jig. Take out 2 wheels and a stake, and attach said stake to the right wheel's axle. Take out an apple and connect it to the left wheel's axle. While holding down the right stick and using the alignment jig, place the left wheel on top of the right wheel. Rotate these wheels to make sure that they're properly aligned. Connect the cubes to a stabilizer like so. And then connect the hover stones to the top of the stabilizer. Rest your connected wheels next to an alignment jig or a wall. Make sure that both axles have an apple attached to them so the wheels don't destroy themselves during the gravity pressing process. Attach at least 2 stakes as evenly as possible to one of the tyres, but feel free to use more stakes if you want. Connect 2 stabilizers to the other tyre, using the arrow as a guide to keep them aligned. If the wheel isn't lined up with your stakes, tilt the wheels until the arrow is orientated properly. On the left is what evenly placed stakes look like. Activate both your wheel and cube setups, and slot the cubes on top. Making sure that they're evenly placed. Attach a fruit to one of the stakes. Deactivate your cube and wheel setup, and then use auto build. This will cause the wheels to slightly clip into each other. Repeat this process another 6 more times for a total of 7 gravity presses. As you can see, the clipping of the wheels is more pronounced for repeated gravity presses. If you've lost count of the number of gravity presses, you'll know when you need to stop when the stakes start to glitch out. Remove the stabilizers and the stakes from the wheels and add an apple. Save this to your auto build favorites. Here are the measurements. Teleport to the construct factory and head to the right leg depot. Inside you'll find the U-block. This is a lightweight and part-efficient form of protection that will cover link from the front and sides. You'll also need to add a wooden beam to your auto build history as well. Stake the U-block into the ground, either from the front or with the side snap points, and attach the steering stick centrally like so. Use another stake to nudge the steering stick downwards, using the connection dots and dashes as a guide. Feel free to turn off motion controls if you have difficulty keeping your hands steady. After using auto build, you'll see that the steering stick has been pulled downwards. Continue this process approximately 3 times while making sure that the steering stick isn't misaligned or twisted. Make sure that after each auto build, you test to see if Link's head and torso are properly covered. Enemies are unable to see Link's legs, so covering his head and torso will prevent line of sight detection. Next we'll be adding a slight angle to the steering stick to prevent Link from being ejected when traversing up steep hills. Stake your cockpit upside down and attach a wooden beam to the steering stick. Take out 6 homing carts and then connect 2 homing carts to the hover stone. Activate them and let them gently fall onto the wooden beam until it stops moving. Stack another homing cart on top and wait for them to stop moving again. Repeat this process with your other 3 homing carts, continuing to further angle the steering stick. Attach a fruit, and auto build. Remove the stakes and the wooden beam. You'll now have a cockpit with a steering stick angled at around 11 degrees. Perform a final check to see if Link's head and torso are still fully covered. Save this to your auto build favourites. Teleport to the water temple and head to the stairs to the west. Stand at this specific spot and turn off your motion controls. Take out 2 construct heads. Grab the upper trigger head, rotate it, and then press down on the D-pad to put it back so that it rests on the ledge. There's a brief moment where you'll be able to connect the edge of the lower aiming head and avoid the snap point connection, so you'll need to quickly grab the trigger head and immediately connect it to the aiming head. Perform an alignment check by holding and rotating the aiming head to see if the trigger head zonai symbol lines up with the vertical red line. Then attach a beam emitter to the trigger head as centrally as possible, using the aiming head as a guide. Perform another alignment check to see if the beam emitter's horn lines up with the vertical red line. Add 2 wooden beams to your auto build history again, as well as a rail from the right leg depot, using 2 stabilizers. head back up to the top of the low may depths labyrinth and attach 2 stakes to the aiming head and 1 to the horn of the beam emitter. Place this into the ground by the tip of the beam emitter's stake, and then place an activated hoverstone on top of the beam emitter's horn. Add 2 wooden beams to each side of the trigger head, using 2 hoverstones as a rest. Remove the 2 hoverstones from underneath and perform the same hoverstone lever technique like we did with the cockpit earlier. Add a fruit and use auto build. And then remove the stakes and the wooden beams. You should end up with a trigger head being angled around 15 to 16 degrees. Next we'll perform an alignment check. Add a beam emitter to the aiming head, turn it on and test it with bees. As you can see, the pulse laser isn't parallel with the regular beam emitter and it's aiming a bit too low. We'll use a similar hoverstone lever method again to rectify this. Add stakes to both the aiming and trigger head and stake it into the ground upside down. Attach a rail to the underside of the beam emitter's horn and gently place an activated hoverstone underneath the rail. Then proceed to perform the same hoverstone lever technique again, like we did before. Now the pulse laser is properly aligned and parallel with a regular beam emitter. We'll add additional beam emitters at the water temple. This is because the low gravity environment helps prevent further angling of the trigger head and mitigates misalignment issues upon subsequent auto builds. Add an upside down beam emitter and cluster the horns of the following beam emitters like so. Remove the top beam emitter and add the turret back onto the stake again. Finally, place your pulse laser turret on your U-block and add this to your auto build favourites. To save on Zonite, we're going to be gravity nudging at Link's house. Make sure that you've modified your house into a gravity nudging station before continuing. The Korok puzzle piece we'll be using can be found under this hill. If you've already completed this puzzle, here are the locations for some suitable alternatives. Go to the Sonipan Shrine and fuse 6 cubes. Then use Pelican Services in Tarrytown to unfuse them. Connect your cubes together and either drive or carry them with Ultra Hand to Link's house. Then separate the cubes. Form a jig with 3 of these cubes and auto build 2 Korok puzzle pieces. While holding down the right stick and forward on the D-pad, hold up on the left control stick and then diagonally up and left. Repeat this process with the other Korok puzzle piece. and then attach them together. Perform a visual alignment check. Both the silhouette and the glue should appear uniform. Connect your 6 cubes like so. And add 4 stabilizers. Attach the Korok puzzle pieces as centrally as possible, using the central cube's markings as a guide. Then attach a stake as centrally as you can. Add a fruit. And make sure that this stabilizer is just lightly touching the wall. After auto building, you'll start to see a small gap forming between the Korok puzzle pieces. Repeat this process again. And you'll see the gap is much more pronounced. Continue repeating this process another 21 times for a total of 23 gravity nudges. Use a cube and 2 hover stones on the flat surface to ensure that the Korok puzzle pieces are aligned. If your pieces are significantly misaligned, you can instead use 2 cubes and 3 hover stones. If you want additional peace of mind, you can perform another realignment step like so. Here are the part comparisons. Use a U-block to test if you correctly gravity nudged your puzzle pieces. There should be no resistance or any connection point flickering between the left and right pieces. You should also have a thin gap between the left piece and the U-block. Here are the measurements. Take 2 big wheels and connect them via the axles from as far away as possible. Then rotate them for an alignment check. Attach at least 2 stakes to the axle of the upper wheel as evenly as you can, using the wheel's arrow as a guide. Connect 3 cubes together, along with 3 hover stones and 3 stabilizers, then add your wheels on top. Grab your gravity nudging setup via the upper stakes or the wheel, and insert them into the wall. Activate it and reinsert it, making sure that the device is straight and level. Add a fruit to the stakes, and then auto build. After you repeat this process 4 times, remove the 2 stakes and reattach one to the upper wheel's axle. Continue gravity nudging for another 14 times, with a total of 18 gravity nudges. Here are the measurements. Don't panic if your wheels are slightly misaligned. Just make sure you keep note of the section that sticks out by referring to the orientation of the Zonai symbol. Here's an example of what good wheel alignment looks like. Take out your gravity press central wheels and connect them to the axle of the left outer wheel. Make sure to connect them from as far away as possible to ensure good alignment. Connect 2 stakes to the axle of the left central wheel, and then add an apple to the axle of the right central wheel. Attach a hover stone and 3 stabilizers to a single cube, and connect it to the left outer wheel. Activate the device, and stake it into the wall. Add a fruit to the stakes, and then auto build. This will cause a small gap to form between the central left and outer left wheel without changing the vehicle's track width. Repeat this process for the 3 times for a total of 4 gravity nudges. Save this to your auto build favorites. Here are the measurements. Head to the TotK shrine. And at the end, you'll find a long metal bar. Add this to your auto build history. Head back up to the water temple and save your game. Connect the metal bar to a stake as centrally as possible. Take out your wheels and attach the central right wheel's axle to the end of the metal bar. If your wheels are slightly misaligned, make sure to orientate it so that the section that sticks out is pointed upwards. To keep the front and rear wheels at the same height, attach the axle so that the top of the axle silhouette touches the top edge of the metal bar's end. Repeat this process for the other wheels. Pick up this build by the stake and attach it to the other stake like so. Pull down the rear outer right side tyre using a stake by slowly raising it from the floor and then spamming A. Repeat this process with the front tyre, using the silhouette as a guide to keep things even. Take out your Korok puzzle pieces and, while holding down the right stick, connect them to the central right wheel's axle as low down as possible. This will require a mixture of inputs from both control sticks and the D-pad, so you need to go through a bit of trial and error. Just be really careful not to connect to the wrong part. But if anything goes wrong, you can always return to the save that you recently made. If you're still having difficulty with placing the Korok puzzle pieces as far down as you would like, you can use the snap point of a shock emitter to pull down the axles even further. Keep in mind that this may affect wheel alignment, so use at your own risk. As you can see, this makes the process significantly easier to place these pieces further down. If you use the shock emitter, use auto build to carefully remove it. This is because holding the build of Ultra Hand for longer than a second will break the wheels off. Use the same technique to remove the outer stakes. Followed by the central stakes. Pin your build into place using 8 stakes and quickly remove the metal bar. Use recall to return these parts back to their original position. Alternatively, you can stand on top of the build when removing the metal bar to prevent the parts from moving in the first place. If these parts don't stay in place, use recall to further adjust your stakes to properly pin them into position. Take out your pulse laser cockpit and connect it to the Korok puzzle pieces on the right hand side of the vehicle, as evenly as you can. You'll want to initially connect it to the one that has a connection dot that doesn't appear as easily. This will ensure that you're able to quickly connect the cockpit to the other Korok puzzle piece without breaking the build. As a side note, Crosby from the Horror Engineering Discord demonstrated that you can break the glue bonds with recall, while still having the connection saved in auto-build history. Using this method, instead of having to reload a save in the event you connect your parts incorrectly, you can use recall during this process to try as many times as you want. Congratulations, the build is now complete. Make sure that you've saved this to your auto-build favourites. Here are the ground clearance differences without using the shock emitter and with using the shock emitter. The closer you can get the left central wheel's axle to the edge of the tyre, the more ground clearance you can gain and the less likely the axles will slip out of the Korok puzzle pieces. For reference, here are the positions for the right central wheel's axle. While you're up here, use this opportunity to perform a drop test. To prevent your pulse lasers from snapping off, exit the steering stick just before hitting the ground. The vehicle's suspension should allow for a smooth and comfortable driving experience at high speeds. While still allowing it to handle small drops. Make sure you perform a steering test, both forwards and in reverse, to check for any reliability issues. If your wheels break off at any point, you'll need to recheck the measurements of your modules and rebuild it again. When climbing up steep slopes, make sure you drive in neutral by letting go of the left stick. This will reduce the RPM, allow the wheels to gain traction on steep, slippery surfaces. However, on switch 2, you can get away with driving at full speed. Although, for steep and or slippery terrain, you'll need to drive at slower speeds by slowly moving the left stick down from neutral and holding it there without reversing. Keep in mind, you'll need to drive backwards down a steep slope to prevent steering stick ejection. On the plus side, this gives you the ability to climb ledges without link falling out. As I mentioned earlier, if you ultra-hand a build for longer than a second, the wheels will break off. So you will need to use recall as your go-to to get out of tough situations. You can also use recall offensively in combat, by initially running over enemies, and then following up with recall. You can one-shot anything that ragdolls. You can use reverse to circle enemies in a more controlled manner, or use it to rapidly get out of danger, which is super useful for hunting Moldugas. If you're not interested in pulse lasers, you can instead replace them with a double propeller system. While it does reduce the top speed, it allows the vehicle to become amphibious and climb very steep cliffs. You can even use it to transport logs to the Lowland village, or modify it further for minigames. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy your very own Ibex Gundyr Kai. Special thanks to the following people for their help and feedback. For those on Switch 2, here are the QR codes.